Thank you, everybody, for joining. Couple of things, and then I'm going to let Austin take over with the cold calling. We're in our lead generation series, and Austin is been kind enough. He's very busy, but he was kind enough to take time to do this training for us on cold calling. A couple of things I want to talk about. The first Thursday of every month in Visalia, we're doing bagels with the broker, and we did it last Thursday, and it was fun. We had a good turnout, and I baked bagels and brought sourdough bread, and we just hung out and kind of socialized and networked a little bit, and so that was great. And we'll do that the first Thursday of July. Oh, what day is the first Thursday of July?
Is it the third or no?
Yeah, it's the third.
It's the third. So we'll see. We'll probably still do it, but we know the fourth is the next day. So, and then on the 26th in Visalia, we are doing lights, camera, closings. And I've hired a photographer to come, and she's going to do updated headshots for everybody. We're going to try and do some video, have an area set up to do some video content. And that's going to be from 11 to 1, and I'll provide food for that too. But you can just drop in, get your headshots, take advantage of it. I'm paying for it, so you might as well get your headshots redone. Doesn't hurt to have too many to choose from. The third thing I wanted to talk about is be very, very careful with fraud. I have a client who was just scammed out of $40,000, and it was all through the escrow. We don't know how they got we don't even know how they knew they were in escrow, but they know they're in escrow. They had the escrow officer's name, email. My name was on there. The lender's name was on there, and they asked for funds to be wired in. They said, and it was how they do it, where it says the next step. And then it said what they needed to do. So it was very legit looking. Whenever escrow sends out emails, they all say call before you wire. They warn about fraud, but it looked so legit, and they didn't call, and they've lost $40,000. So make sure your clients understand. Call. Make sure that who you are wiring to are is actually escrow. They somehow paste in my email, because I didn't get that email. So they make it look like I'm in on the email, as well as Wes was in on the email. But of course, we really were not in on the email, because Wes would have piped in and said, we're not ready for funds. Why would you wire? So be careful, guys, and warn your clients. So with that, I will let Austin take over.
Drawing first.
Oh, the drawing. I forgot about the drawing.
Am I picking it or?
You're doing it.
You are.
It's all on Austin today, guys.
Yeah, 100.
Oh, he's not looking. He's got very long arms. There's no way he can cheat.
Oh, no, we got.
Got you, Chris.
He always tells everyone the square card, look at this.
Yeah, and he
To be fair, I've never heard that,
he
so.
had requested for us to switch him from the square to the regular.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I told him no.
Oh, wait, but this one's.
I'm
invalid.
online.
Ah.
Square. I kept the square.
I'm online. Did I get it?
I'll wait in 10 seconds or it's on to the next.
He's on.
He's sleeping.
No, he responded. It's just the audio's low.
All right.
Congratulations, Chris.
So you needed that.
We good to go? Oh, did I win? He said, did I win?
Yes, Will, you won.
yeah, but I was sleeping. Chris, did you just freaking zoom into that? Chris is sleeping.
You see that.
Cool. All right. Today we got cold calling, everyone's favorite thing. Love you, Austin. Love you too, bud. So today, we're not going to get into no, scripts and role play or nothing like that. We could sit there for hours like that. So today we're just going to talk about why cold calling is a good avenue. Always not like to, yeah. Why cold calling is good, why it can be good. There's obviously a lot of avenues that we're going into. Cold calling is one of them for lead gen, and I'll kind of tell you why I got into it, how I've done it, and why it's been my main, source of lead gen. So, and then as always, too, pop in questions at any point. We love questions. So, How I got started in cold calling. So starting out in just real estate in general, I probably told you guys this before, but before as I was getting my license, I bought a house, spent every penny I had on this house, working another job, quit that job, went into full-time real estate. Not the brightest move ever, and was recommended not to. My broker at the time, who was also my team leader, Troy, he was like, just go all in for it. And so pretty much at that point, I was like, I got to sell a house every month to pay my mortgage. So how can I do that with no experience in real estate? And Troy, he's been around the game for 30, 40 years, and he was one way to doing things, and that's cold calling and door knocking. And that's kind of how I started. He had an office right behind mine. And I sat every day and cold called for 8 hours and ended up thankfully keeping my house, selling a house every month through cold calling. And that's kind of how I started cold calling. And then as I went off on my own, evolved cold calling, got VAs involved, and kind of scaled the cold calling business a little more. And we'll get into that. But that's kind of the basis of how I got started. Not because I wanted to. I don't think anybody's excited about cold calling, um, but it works well, and we'll get into all those reasons why. So why cold calling? Volume of contacts. So you could contact more people, have more conversations than any form of lead gen that I'm aware of. You're calling 1,000 people or more a day, and you're talking to them directly, and you can pick and choose who you talk to as well. So as far as I know, I don't think there's another form of lead gen where you could talk to as many people as you can with cold calling. It's an aggressive, direct approach. You get super specific. You could call owners direct, and you're just talking to more people. So it's the direct, aggressive approach than any other form of lead gen as well. The biggest thing for me too, as well, that I'm appreciative of cold calling is a skill set building. If you could get told F off, 100 times a day, it grows on you, and a lot of people are afraid of rejection. You'll have to get over that pretty quick with cold calling. On top of just the skill sets you learn with talking to people, it's tonality, it's how to control a conversation and guide people's emotions. And oftentimes we think about the real estate of the ins and outs of real estate, but we're really just managing people's expectations, people's emotions. And cold calling, I credit my speaking skills to cold calling. It's grown me a lot. And I think, whether it's a long-term cold calling thing, I think cold calling is great for anybody new, just because you get to learn how to talk to people and how to manage people. And that's honestly what I'm most thankful for with cold calling.
Everything else must have been very easy
Yeah,
compared to cold
it
calling.
does. Like talking through transactions. I mean, cold calling, you don't know the person. You're calling them randomly at any point in the day, so they're not happy about it 9 out of 10 times. Um, but if you get told, and that's as bad as it gets for sure. So everything else, every other follow-up call or handling something in escrow, those conversations have become so much easier if you've been through cold calling. So yeah, everything else does seem a lot easier after you go through it for sure. Next slide. So what you need in order to cold call. Next slide, please. First, you need data, however you say it. When I first started out in real estate, the real estate's evolved over the last 7, 8 years tremendously. So what I was doing was going through probably First American Title. You go to any title company and print out a list of contacts. You go specific neighborhoods. You could go 100,000 contacts in Visalia. It used to be free back in the day. I know there are some free ways of going about it. So going through a normal title company like that, it's very cost effective. You could also go through private data companies now, which there is a ton more than there was back in the day.
Is that like Red X?
Red X is one. There's one that I'm just getting into that a lot of my buddies are using called Versium. Versium is used for a lot of businesses. So if you're doing commercial, a lot of the big companies like Costco's of the world and the Targets of the world, they have cold callers and they're reaching out for like different wholesalers and such. So there's a lot of different private companies out there now. You could just Google search it. I've also been connected with private data guys as well out of Sacramento, which I've used the last 4 years. They're really good as well. If you guys ever want some guidance with data, I could help with that.
When Diego came and spoke about farming and how he, those,
Yeah.
is that the same kind of title company data that
Yeah, pretty much. The thing with cold calling is you're gonna want to get a pretty fat list. I mean, unless you could also
Go through them so
you go
fast.
through them so quick. So unless, I mean, if you just want to farm, like let's say in Tulare, there's Del Lago community. If you just want to farm Del Lago, you could pull out the whole list of Del Lago and just like call them monthly or send them mail or so. In the data, you'll get their name, you'll get their phone number, email address, their mailing address. If they have a different mailing address, they're probably not living in this current home. And then the even better data companies will also, I've used PropStream as well. PropStream's really good. And it'll tell you all the homes they own, which is pretty cool. So you could kind of see what their net worth is, what they got, and what they're leveraging. PropStream's actually really good. I've used that quite a bit. There's another one I use too.
Wire's good too.
PropWire? Haven't used PropWire. There's a bunch of data. If you guys have any questions with data, feel free to reach out. But data is huge.
Are there some data companies that are bad?
For sure. I mean, the cheaper you go with data, the less quality. And there's what we call a hit rate. So it's the amount of, if I say I have 100 numbers and then I actually talk to 5 of them work, that's a 5% hit rate. That's horrible. The better companies, you're looking at 80% plus hit rates. If you're going to a title company and getting a free one, because these data is always updating, right? So what that is in this community right now is going to be different next week. People change their numbers all the time. People move, right? So it's always evolving. That's why, normally you go into a normal title company, you might get old data, which again, it's cost effective, but I pay a premium just because I'm calling and I want the hit rate to be as high as possible. The highest I ever seen, we hit like a 91% hit rate, which was amazing a couple years ago. But just kind of food for thought, I would always recommend, you're going to spend some money anyways, but I would spend more to get more qualified
Like
data.
what, I know it's gonna depend on what they're doing, but what would you say is an average range?
I got-
that we need to
yeah.
spend?
I got like 80,000 records in Tulare County last May, and it cost me 40 grand. It lasted, or not 40, did I say 40? 4 grand. Everyone just logs off.
The whole thing shuts down.
It cost me 4 grand for like 80,000 records, and the hit rate was great.
And how many deals did you get out of that, do you think?
So I was running, we'll get into that too, the VA. I was running a VA that wasn't great. We got 3 deals out of that.
But
I
it's
wasn't
still
calling
big
it
use
myself.
for it, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, one deal will pay for it tenfold, so
I'm using
yeah, you got to use it right. And that's the way I see it too. It's like when I'm spending money for data or whatever, streams of systems I'm doing, I'm more inclined to use it because that's money coming out of your pocket. So that's what I've always done. I'd rather spend more money, and it keeps me a little accountable too, right? So that's data. If you guys have any questions about who to go to or want some connections, feel free to reach out. Google's great. You can find a bunch of different companies. Cool thing about that is you get specific lists too. So depending on what, if you're going retail, if you're trying to buy an investment property or whatever the case may be, you get super specific with it. This is just a couple things. Absentee owners, you could put a criteria in there. So all the owners that don't live in their property, you could call them directly. Years owned property. So we know, like, I know back in the day, it was every 7 years on average, someone would move. I think it's higher now. But if you put, they've owned their home for at least 15 years, they might have a higher chance of moving at some point. You can put the age of the seller. So I always put mine like 25 and older because likely chance of people owning under 25 is pretty low. So I don't want to blow up some teenagers, phone for no reason, waste time. You can put equity in home. Another way to say it, LTV, loan to value ratio. I always put 70%. They got high equity in their home. So people, if they just bought 2 years ago and they don't have much equity, why would they sell, right? So this is just a few things. I mean, if you go to some of these data companies, you could get so specific. You could go their, what political stance they have, if they have kids in college or moving to college when they're going to college. I mean, it's insane how specific you can get with this. Brittany asked a question.
Yeah, it's pretty, they all are.
So yeah,
If you can watch it.
Yes, all of the recordings will be posted online. On our YouTube channel.
Second thing you're gonna need is you're gonna need a CRM and multi-line dialer. Ideally, if you had them both in one. So I've been using Mojo for probably 6 years, 5 years now. Mojo is great. It's only a 3-line dialer, which is totally fine. You could still make a great amount of contacts using a 3-line dialer. For those that don't know a multi-line dialer, what it is you're calling up. You could pick 1 to 3 lines in this example, but it's calling 3 people at once. So you have a screen, it'll be 3 people dialing at once. The first person that picks up, you get connected to. I usually have a headset on. You could do it out of your phone or whatever, whichever dialer you use kind of requires different ones. But then you talk to that one person. If someone else picks up, they put them on pause. You'll make a little voice memo and it'll be, hey, connection's bad or something. They get put on pause after you're done with that conversation. It goes into that one. Or if the other two don't, it just keeps dialing. So you're calling 3 people all the time. I love Mojo. I highly recommend Mojo actually because it's what I've used for my CRM too. We got Sync, which is amazing. So you could still use Sync, and then Sync will also connect with Mojo. Sync actually connects with most multi-line dialers, which is pretty cool. Which means when you're getting leads and you're keeping notes on this dialer of the conversations, it'll sync into your CRM. So that is a cool thing about Sync. It syncs well. Um, call tools I've used before, not a huge fan of it. 1 to 10 lines. I've had a lot of difficulty with connections on call tools, but it's highly recommended if you look at it. It's one of the best ones. I just didn't have a great experience with it. The best multi-line dialer is Ready Mode. This is what I've used last couple of years. You can call up to 12 people at a time. So the amount of contacts is insane.
Do you, since you're getting a 80% hit list, are you dialing 12 people? Cause do you feel like it's a waste if you can't talk to somebody directly? Like, how many are you
Yeah.
dialing?
It really comes down to like the timing that when you're calling. I mean, it's trial and error what works for you. If you're calling 12 people at a time and you're getting like 3 connections, like people are answering right away, you want to drop it down to maybe 6 lines. So it's kind of you play with it. I've noticed when I was doing it slow, like with my VAs and such, we're like, man, we're like from 12 to like 2, we're getting like a lot of pickups. So from 12 to 2, we'll drop it down to 6. A lot of trial and error with this and what works well for you. Obviously, if you're just beginning in cold calling, I wouldn't recommend going no 12 dialer. I would recommend going 1 to 3 lines Mojo, and that'll be perfectly fine with you. Going into like 10 and 12 lines is really when you start hiring VAs or if you hire people that's calling for you. Um, that's when you want to step up the lines because you're paying them and you want to call as much as possible. Also, the cool thing to kind of explain the multi-line dialer, if someone does pick up and while you're on the line, if you don't talk to that person, it just recycles. So these multi-line dialers and CRMs now they're AI, so it'll pick up, and if you don't talk to them, it'll sync right back into your lines, and then once you talk to somebody, it'll go to the back of the list, and it's AI now, so it's pretty cool the way it's set up. That was kind of a lot. Does that explain multi-line dialers and
Can you
CRM?
explain to me again, Mike, if you have multi-lines going
Mhm.
and you grab and somebody answers.
Yeah.
It keeps calling all the other people as well?
It will, yeah. So for example, with the 1 to 3 lines, call them 3 people at a time. You'll see 3 calls up here. Different lines calling. One picks up, I'm talking to somebody. Another fills that spot. So now it's 3 other people calling. I'm talking to somebody. If someone else answers the phone, you make what's a voice message. So since you're not going to connect with them, it'll seem like they're talking to you, and it'll be like, "Hey, sorry, I'm not hearing you right. Let me call you back." It's a kind of a trick code.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So rather than thinking, or just getting hung up on, you have a little voice memo, and then as soon as you're done, it'll try to go connect with him again.
What if does it also leave a voicemail or just leave it dead? Or do you?
You could leave voicemails. So you have an option to leave voicemails. I don't leave voicemails because I don't, and cold calling, I mean, unless you're targeting a specific house and you want to talk to someone, you have an idea what's going on, then you can leave a voicemail. Hey, this is awesome. But if you're just calling random people voicemails, it's just going to become a headache. People are going to call you back, and be pissed off. And you want to touch everybody on their first try. So I don't leave voicemails when I'm cold calling unless it's for a specific property and I know what's going on. So I don't leave voicemails in cold calling. Another thing I didn't put in this, now I'm thinking about it, is like how do you get these lines? So there's Google Voice, there's a bunch of different where you rent numbers at, and you could also do it through these CRMs as well. Like Ready Mode, when I'm doing 12 lines, I it's pretty much rent. I pay like $50 a month for it, but it's 50 numbers that I'm using, and all those, and you could pick the area code as well, right? So I'm not going to call someone from Slow in the 559 area code, right, or vice versa. So you get to rent these numbers because a lot of times too, when you're calling, when you're cold calling, you're doing as much volume, your number will tend to go to spam. So you'll rent numbers, or you go through any of these places to rent numbers to cold call. So that's another key thing. But a lot of these CRMs like Ready Mode and Mojo and Call Tools, they have numbers through them that you can rent, and as soon as one goes spam, they'll just replace it with another number. Um, kind of a kind of deep there, but that's kind of something else too.
That's how you avoid it coming across on your phone where it says spam.
Yeah.
possible.
And it will. Some of them, sometimes it will come up as spam. It just happens that way when you're calling that volume. But good thing about having multiple phone numbers and running through those, even though I'm only got 12 lines calling, I rent 50 numbers. So if one does go spam, it just replaces it right away.
And it does it automatically, you don't have to.
Yeah, with some of these CRMs, not every CRM does that, but like Ready Mode and Mojo and Call Tools, they have their own numbers for you.
So probably if somebody really wants to do this and they're gonna do it at a high level like this,
Mhm.
they should find out if the CRM will automatically replace it, because it's a waste of time.
100%.
If everybody, because as soon as I see spam, I'm like, yeah, you're gone.
Yeah.
You're gone.
Exactly.
I'm like, block.
And so and to add to that point too, you don't use your personal number for these, or else that'll happen. Your own phone number will go spam. So you're renting all the numbers. If you're doing Mojo, so I also use Mojo as my follow-up. It's been my CRM. I haven't had a CRM outside of Mojo. It's my dollar and CRM. So I think Mojo is great for follow-ups. It's super user-friendly to where, you could set a follow-up call, your schedule, you have all your calls on a daily basis, and everything's kind of in one place. You could use if you're calling one person, if you're doing follow-ups, you could use your own number. But if you're doing 3 or more lines, it's always recommended to just rent the numbers, or yeah, rent the numbers, I would say. Um, so yeah, any questions or clarifications on that?
That makes sense.
If someone decides to call back the number
Mhm.
that you rented, you get the call, right?
Yeah, it'll come up on your dialer like someone's calling. That's why I don't leave voicemails. I don't like callbacks because it kind of messes up the mojo when you're cold calling. So that's why I don't leave voicemails. I don't really want callbacks. And then if you don't, if you don't answer them calling back, it still gets recycled in your numbers. So that's the reason I don't use that. But yeah, if they call back that same number, it'll go right to your dialer and you'll see it and you can answer it if you're free or not. Um, and then as you pick up, to kind of give you a picture of this dialer, as you pick up the phone, as soon as it connects with someone, all the property information is going to come up. It's going to have their name from your data. So you import your data into your CRM multi-line dialer. And then most of these have like Zillow links. You click Zillow, so then I pull up Zillow, and I'm looking at his property while I'm talking to him. And then there's a note section, right? We're keeping notes, and I'm a big note taker, and you're trying to get as much out as a seller as possible. So yeah, so it's trying to paint a picture. Probably would have been cool to kind of show you live.
You have been out once, you're doing that.
I always have 2 screens opened up at once. It's been a game changer. When I first started, I was doing it off my laptop for years until I got my it's a game changer. I have Zillow open, then I have my dollar open at all times, or Flex is good too, but the conversations happen so quick, so it's easy just to use Zillow with the Zillow link, or you could also, it has the Google View link where you could look live at the house and such. These multi-line dialers, CRMs now, they have everything right in front of you, so it's pretty cool. And that's why data is so important, because if you're calling someone and the information's wrong, then it's starting off bad already. So that's why data is so important, right? We could go to the next slide. Virtual assistants. So I'm sure at this point everyone's kind of familiar with virtual assistants, VAs we call them. I mean, I can't even call and pay a Verizon phone bill without it being a VA. If you could tell by their accent, everybody uses VAs nowadays, even huge corporate companies. And why do they use VAs? Because they're dirt cheap. Rather than paying someone here locally for minimum wage, 20 bucks an hour or whatever it is, you're paying, people out of the Philippines or United Kingdom for 4 bucks an hour. So it's very cost efficient. And these people, like, $4 an hour is quite a bit to them. And if you treat them well, they'll be loyal to you. Um, it's trial and error with VAs. I've fired a lot. I've had some great ones. A couple spots of ways to hire. Onlinejobs.ph. I haven't used this myself, but I've been recommended this one from some buddies. Most of them, they'll come trained and they'll have experience, and it's pretty much what's a hiring temp place. Indeed. It's like an Indeed for VAs. So you can see what their past. So I'll go real estate acquisitions or something, and they've done cold calling, and then you could interview them, and then you can hire them from the site, and then they become yours after that. Fiverr is also a good one. I would do Fiverr for one-off jobs if you're not going to find someone loyal and willing to do work every single day for 4.50 an hour, 4 bucks an hour. So I would do online jobs. I've been connected with a few heads where I've gotten my VAs from. They came from call centers actually, and they've been trained how to do real estate. You pay a little premium price, like the ones I had in Slow, I was paying $1,000 to acquire each VA. I was running two at first, and then they became mine, and they already kind of came trained with scripts. Obviously, you got to train them yourself and how you want to go about business. So if you need help with virtual assistants, I would say try online jobs. And if not that, if you got like one day of calling, maybe hit Fiverr. But reach out to me. I got some connections too with VA hiring as well. What's up, buddy?
He wants the money.
Yeah. Did you say it was Chris that was doing cold calling with the VA?
Chris is, yeah.
How did you hire your VA?
I went through that website you said.
Oh.
Online.
Oh, you
There it is.
on jobs?
Yeah,
Nice.
that was the one that I went to, and I did a posting on there, and I had like tons of people, like left and right. Just
Yeah.
Tons of people. They're like begging me to hire
Yeah. Pretty good though.
them.
Person you ended up with.
I've got the person I ended up with. This is my first time ever messing with it, so there's some opportunity for sure.
Yeah.
I was having her log in through RedX. I don't even know if that's
Yeah.
good or not, but you didn't mention that one up there, but.
I've heard it's good. I've never used it myself, but I heard it's
It
good.
records every single call, like it
Yep.
pretty much does everything that you were talking about, except for I didn't know about the spam thing.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, I'll have to look at it to see what it does there. But basically, I filtered and got list through, everything was through there, it's got the 3-line dialer.
Nice.
And I recorded a voicemail to leave, which I'm gonna remove now that you
Yeah.
said. And I didn't know about when somebody's on hold, I was like, how would I? That seems like it's gonna, like, they're just gonna hang up if, like, they're not gonna wait on hold just to listen to you.
Yeah.
Talk to them, but you said like, oh, hey, I think the line's bad, let me call you back. That's good.
Yeah.
Oh. that
It'll
makes
keep
sense.
people on for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Well, that's good. Yeah, I haven't used online jobs, but I've heard it's great. I've had people hire multiple VAs, and on top of that, VAs too. I mean, we're talking about cold calling today, but you could have a VA for everything. You could have people overlook emails, or I mean, I wouldn't recommend a TC, but I know people that use them as TCs. Yeah, there's a bunch of things you could do for whatever jobs you need, really, over the phone. So VAs are amazing. Call centers. This is the other way, rather than hiring, because when you hire a VA, Chris knows this as well, you're spending time on VAs. So you're training them. I'm doing an hour session or 30-minute session with them every morning, role playing, telling them about our script. It's a lot of time you're going to put into VAs to get them to be, to produce. Because even if they come trained, in my experience, you got to train them how you want. So you're going to spend a lot of time on VAs, and you're listening to their calls as well. So if it's too much and it's too much time, you can go directly to call centers, which is a hands-off approach with VAs. You get warm, hot leads without ever dealing with the VA directly. So there's this one I'm actually going to start next month called REI Call Center, and it's a little pricey. They're talking like $1,500 a month. They assign you one VA, and rather than dealing with the VAs and training and doing all that, You pretty much give them your script, how you want to go about it, whether it's retail or if it's off market, you want to do, acquire homes, whatever it is, cash offers. You tell them what you want out of the VA, they'll give them the script and they'll do it, and they'll only send you the warm and hot leads based on whatever a warm and hot lead is to you. So it's kind of the hands-off approach rather than dealing with it, which is kind of where I'm going towards now. I've had two VAs for the last 6 years or more than that. At this point in my life, I'm just kind of busy where I'd rather be hands-off. So I'm actually starting this next month. I'll let you guys know how that is. But call centers, you can just Google that too as well. REI call centers is one I'm going to try. It just takes hands off, and that's kind of where I'm at with my career. So we'll see how that goes. But I've heard good things.
So they make the initial calls
They'll do it all. Yeah.
and then they get somebody on the hook and then you take over, is
Great
that?
question. Yeah, yeah. So they're the VAs, the cold callers, they're going to make the initial call based on the script. They're going to warm them up. If it's a solid lead, whether it's a cold, warm, hot lead, they'll be, all right, I'm going to connect you with my manager or my boss or whatever it is, and he'll talk to you more. And then they throw it to me, the leads to me, and then I'll call them with a follow-up call and dive even deeper, right? And then set up the appointment.
Instead of you sitting and making the calls, they're making the calls for
If
you.
you get a badass VA, that's really good. And I've only had two of these before, but you could get them to the point where they're setting you up with appointments as well.
So
Um,
they've gotta be good.
they gotta
to do
be-
that.
They gotta be good. That's why it's important to see their job history. If they're calling for insurance companies or if they've called for real estate, and you give them scripts, you gotta really, I've fired, 10 to 15 before, I've kept some. I mean, it's a tough process and you get kind of attached to them, which you can't. But
You ever go to the Philippines and meet them in person?
no, one of my buddies in Slow did though. He went and met his whole crew out there. Took him out. Yeah, it was sick because he was doing real estate and then he made this huge media company and his whole team stuck with him and they're like producing huge, it's a big media firm out there. And he actually went out to the Philippines and just put them on a bunch of fun times. So no, I would never do that. But yeah. What was that question?
So Brittany asked if it's like basically like an outsourced ISA.
Yeah, exactly what it is. Yeah. VAs are just a little more hands-on, but yeah, you're dealing with leads, they're coming in and you just gotta make sure to follow up with them. So yeah, it's a great way to put it. Any questions around VAs or the call centers? No?
How do you find out what the hit rate is?
So if you get a good CRM like the ones I put, it keeps track record of all that data. So like all of how many calls it took to get an answer, how long your conversations were. I mean, obviously it records every conversation. So the data or the CRM should give you all that information. And then what I did with my VAs, every Friday we had a reflection. So I'd go over the stats. Hey, you talked to this many people. Your conversations were this long. Why were they short? Right. So when we're talking about time, that's where it gets, a lot of time put towards these VAs because you're keeping them accountable and you're their boss. They call you boss, so you gotta teach them. So was that the only slide I had? Yeah.
How long is it before when the VA talks to the person until you talk to them?
It depends on how qualified the lead is. If it's a cold lead, I just let my VAs follow up with them. I don't want to deal with cold leads. If they're over 8 months out or a year or two out, it's like I don't want to sit and talk to this guy every month. Unless it's like a badass house or something. I'm like, oh, well, maybe I don't want to step into that. But I'll listen to the call too, see if my VA could have done a better job, if I could have worked a different angle and maybe got more progress. Really depends on how that conversation went initially. But I prefer only to talk to the warm and hot leads, 6 months or under that are ready to
And then
go.
do you talk to them immediately after the VA speaks with them, you speak? to them?
As soon as possible, yeah. I tell my VAs to tell them I'm going to give them a call within the next 24 hours. So,
So they tell them that you're
yeah.
gonna reach out.
yeah, like hey, they say boss. Usually, my boss, Austin's going to give you a call sometime tomorrow. They'll see their work schedule, see if the time works for them. And if you get them really good, they'll start setting appointments for you, and that's where it's at. But it takes reviewing those calls and stuff to make sure it's qualified. Had something else for this. Yeah, so when I was at the coast, we were funneling Cal Poly students to cold call for us, more in the lines of to kind of get them in real estate, and then we could build our team out even more. And we were paying them like $20 an hour or something. But then we had 8 VAs going at a time. So when I'm going on listing appointments, I'm explaining how we do business. I'm saying, hey, look, because we're contacting sellers, we're going directly to sellers, but not all the time are they willing to sell their house, but they may be a buyer. So it works for both ends, buyers and sellers. So when I'm going to these listing appointments, I'm saying, hey, we take an aggressive approach at this. So we're not just going to throw your house on Zillow and then or pay for some Facebook leads for you. Like we're calling owners directly. So I could pull a list and say, hey, I got this $1.5 million house that's kind of in rough condition. It needs to go cash. And I could pull a list of all the cash buyers in that area. And I could have a VA or myself call directly. So I'm telling them we got four at this time. What we were doing is we had four VAs. Once we had a live listing, four VAs reaching out to buyers. And then we had another four looking for sellers or, seller may want to move into that too as well. So taking an aggressive approach at the market rather than just throwing it on and seeing what happens. That's worked really well with my listing presentations and kind of just show them how aggressive and direct we are, right?
That's so good. So when you're talking about cold calling, there's numerous ways. I mean, you could really use it a lot of ways, right?
So many
You could
ways.
do it buyers, sellers, you could do it when incorporated into your farming. I mean, if
Mhm.
you're farming a community, you should be cold calling those people as well, the neighborhood. And that's probably the most important, right? To get the most bang for your buck
Yeah.
is to use it every single way.
Yeah.
Like I never thought about using it in a listing presentation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
it's
smart.
how I've done business. So it's not a lie or anything. So it's how we work. So um as far as I don't want to get into scripts and role play because we could be here for hours, but there's different ways of going about these calls. So I don't ever call and say, hey, this is Austin Molezzo with Downtown Realty. I'm looking to see if you're willing to sell your house. I'll never say that. I hardly even say my name up front. The way I approach that's worked for me is I'm as if I'm a buyer. And I'm really, I'm a real estate advisor over anything. So I'm calling them, and the cold call is like, hey, we're looking to acquire some more homes. I mean, would you ever consider selling your house, or what's your goals here? That's the angle we're coming across as, because I've also done a lot of wholesaling in my career. So this might be a cash deal for one of my investors or myself, or it may be a retail deal. And I don't even, in a good conversation, I don't ever even tell them I'm a real estate agent until like I meet with them and say, hey, I do the retail side and I do this side. If you want to go cash, I could buy it from you cash. Or if it's retail, here's how I do retail real estate. So a good conversation. I don't even mention, obviously, if we're talking for 20 minutes, then it'll come out, hey, I'm a real estate advisor. I do both ends of this, and this probably seems what you're leaning towards, and we can get into it. But that's kind of the angle. I never come out and say I'm a real estate agent looking to sell your house. We get hung up on right away, So
Yeah,
that's kind of the angle that I use. If you guys want scripts and stuff, I got a bunch of different scripts, but kind of just to touch on that, that's the angle I use. I'm a real estate advisor, and we're looking to acquire properties, which isn't a lie because all my investors are looking to acquire properties, right? So um, that's the angle I use for those calls.
it's crazy. It's good. Never thought about that.
Yeah. And you can use VAs for anything you guys need in your business. It's just pretty cool. You guys, any questions or
How long do you usually give a VA before you
let
decide?
them go?
to
Oh yeah,
can-
I usually give them. Well, I try to give them 3 months. I'll know within a month their progress, but we'll give them scripts and I train them every morning. If they're not producing in 3 months, then I tend to let them go at that point. But I've had two VAs where I kept them on for 2 years, and they were really good. But yeah, that's the tough thing about it is you got to be willing to let them go, and you want to be like make them feel part of the team, and and feel good about themselves, but you can't get attached to them. A couple of them were tough to let go, but yeah, huh?
Do they cry?
Probably yeah.
You're not gonna need that month, Sarah.
Well, I mean, it's like it's a huge job for them. The other thing about it, which is interesting, is like in the Philippines when they're calling from 1 a.m. to 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. our time.
Oh, yeah.
So they're opposite. So when we're meeting in the mornings, they're like, kind of just waking up, getting some coffee, and it's 1 a.m. over there, So it's interesting how it is and the time difference and stuff. But 450 an hour is it used to be $4 an hour. I give them 450 an hour if they're good, and then every deal I'll give them $100, which is like
Mhm.
insane. Like
That's a lot of money for them.
the last gal that was really good I had for 2 years, she ended up saving up to buy a house out there. And it's cool. Like I gave her a little bonus for Christmas. She got her kid a bike, right? And it's You could get attached pretty easily. I don't recommend, but it's pretty cool to see you change lives over there. You know, you change lives, and
You guys don't know, but Austin is now engaged to.
she's a hell of a caller. Yeah.
It's great. Gunnar, do you think a VA would help with property management to like find absentee owners that would maybe
Oh,
wanna
yeah.
have management?
Yeah, I
of
think
their
it'd be
property?
great. I think it'd be great. I mean, you're spending, I don't know what you guys do for lead gen for that, but yeah, I mean, it'd be worth a shot. I mean, so I was spending like $900 or about $800 a month, I think it came out to for at $4 an hour, and they were calling 8 hours a day for me, 5 days a week. So the amount of calls, I mean, they're talking to at least 50 heads a day. I mean, that was kind of my standard for them, but usually it's pushing 100 conversations a day. Um, it's tough to sit down and call for 8 hours a day yourself. So like for me, like 4 hours a day of straight cold calling is solid. I recommend anybody to really, if you're starting out, like push and do 3 hours a day. Like you're not working for nobody. This is your business. 3 hours a day of lead gen is pretty bare minimum. It's tough, but you're going to grow. You're going to build your skill sets. And whether you do this in 10 years or not, or 5 years or not, you're going to build your skill sets so much quicker. So I highly recommend it for newer people. To just build yourself, and then it's the fastest way to talk to as many people as well. So
What's as far as like a good VA, like they're calling for 8 hours a day, what what would
how many leads?
like an average VA?
I need at least 3 to 5 leads a week from each VA. It's obviously changed over time and depending on the markets, we're obviously in a slower market. So I used to be like 5 was the bare minimum for me. And then over the last couple of years, especially in slow, it's a less population, less homes over there to sell. So it's like 3 leads, solid leads though. They have to be qualified, not just like, yeah, we are looking to move in a year. That's not a qualified lead to me. A lead's like, yeah, I'm interested, connect me with your manager. So qualified leads, 3 to 5 is solid a month or a week. Um, and
Per
it'll
VA.
per VA, yeah.
How many appointments are you doing on with that?
It over time, right? So like obviously, the first week of leads, I may not meet with them right away, but I mean I should have a couple appointments every week, if I'm running 1 or 2 VAs. Once we had 8, it was like it took our team to, we had 10, 12 appointments a week where we are going out. So then we had to, scatter it throughout the team. So it just really depends on how many VAs, but for one VA, 3 to 5 leads a week is solid. That REI call center that I'll be starting up next week or next month, they give you 5 bare minimum a month or 5 hot ready to go deals a month. They're saying deals. So that's not just a qualified lead. That's a deal. And they also have where they could have a VA for an acquisition manager. So rather than you doing the follow up, they pretty much make the offer for you, damn near. And you just go and get the paperwork signed. I'm not gonna try that out the gate. I'm just start with the VAs. So I think that was closer to $3,000 a month if you got the manager on board. So I'm gonna start out with that. See how that works. Yeah.
If anybody is not completely petrified right now and is interested in going forward with something like that, I mean, would you be willing to meet with people and like
100%.
in a group and do
Yeah.
scripts and kind of go the next step?
Yeah, I love doing it. I love doing it. Currently, right now, my 2VA, I don't have a VA right now. We got rid of him when I joined downtown. So I kind of miss kind of training the scripts and role play and stuff. So yeah, I'd be happy to help get together with you guys, work on scripts and role play. Even if you're not hiring VAs or if you're not there yet or nothing, and you just want a cold caller on your own or you just want to get better at talking to people, would be happy to hop on a call or meet up.
Well, because you can also help them with like calling around open houses, calling,
Yeah.
circle prospecting around
Yeah.
listings. I mean, that's a way to start.
Yeah.
Calling your farm, it's a way to start. And then maybe once they get comfy with that, they can go to the next.
And Mojo, the one I'm recommending to all the beginners, it has a circle prospecting button on there as well, where you could put an address in and it'll just call all the surrounding there if you have the data for it.
How much is Mojo?
$60 a month. Well, that's for the one dialer. If you got 3 lines, I think it's like 130 now.
There's no data though.
No data. $130 for the dialer.
But if you were just gonna do circle prospecting, That
You-
would be okay for $60, right?
Yeah, and you could buy the data through Mojo as well. You can do that. You still have to buy the data.
Data.
Oh, you
Um,
gotta buy the
Because
data.
you have to pay for somebody's number, that's what you're, the data you're getting, their information called skip tracing or whatever.
Yep.
And some of them will skip trace it for pennies on the dollar or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
So you can get the list from First American and have them skip trace it
Yep.
or whatever, and then you implement that, and then you get that.
Yeah, the data companies I use, it's weird if you're going at high volume, like if you're doing 100,000+ records, it's the skip tracing, it's damn near as expensive as just buying brand new data nowadays. I don't know why that is. Skip tracing is just you have old data and you go through it and it updates all the numbers and information. That's skip tracing, rather than buying a whole new brand new data set. So you can skip trace, but yeah, circle prospecting is huge. And you can do that on Mojo as well. And all those sync up with sync that we use at downtown. So any help I could be with that, let me know.
Anything else? Questions? Anybody else online before we let Austin go? Thank you so much, Austin.
Pleasure.
Appreciate the expertise.
Thank you guys.